live. There's 3 things to check. We got 1, 2, and 3. It looks like we are officially live for our every Thursday Cosmic Conversations. Whether you are in Zoom, whether you are on YouTube at Stacey Harder, or whether you're at Instagram, Stacey Harder, welcome. We're glad that you can join us. This is this week's Cosmic Conversation. It is a place where we get together every week to talk about any kind of questions or anything that's topics of happening, going on in life, going in on the planet. And it's hopefully a place that you can ask your questions, find answers, know that you're not alone. My hair is doing all kinds of weird things. You're not alone in this journey, and there's a reason why you're here. And we thank you for joining us. So, Heather, take her away.
Thank you, Stacey. And lots of things are going on right now. Much like if you've ever been in a television studio where they're taping a show, you have the scene that's going on the stage that people are reacting to. But behind that scene, lots of things are happening. There's camera people and editing people and sound people and all kinds of people doing all kinds of things to make that thing on the stage work the way it's supposed to. And that's really what's going on the planet right now. Lots and lots of things are going on behind the scenes, lots of activities in every direction. People are feeling the consequence of it. There's a lot more stimulation to release and let go. There's a lot more stimulation to make different and better choices. Lots of things going on. And for people who are sensitive to that energy stirring, for instance, when I'm writing, I have to have a completely quiet energy. I can't be working if there are people in the house moving around, which is kind of crazy. It does help when you live alone. But on the spiritual sense, right now, people who are sensitive to that activity, that energetic movement, are feeling very distressed and very challenged. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about the process of ascension tonight, and just see where it goes. I was told long time ago to have these opportunities to discuss the things that are going on in your life. We did it by phone on a hub line for many years. And then in the last year or so, we have now transitioned to Zoom and do it online, which I like a lot better because I get to see people's faces. So if you're listening on Instagram or YouTube, feel free to jump on our Zoom line. I think Stacey has it printed or is going to share it again right now. It
is 428-733-218. And that is
and then when you're online, I get to see your face and interact more as a typical conversation. And then also when we do spirit sprinkles, our little individual spirit messages, then I can do it much easier because you're here in front of me. Our conversations have 3 distinct phases. Phase 1 is when we remember to ask for protection, guidance, and truth. In this universe, there are certain immutable laws that everyone and everything has to follow. Knowing these laws, and that could be a whole conversation some evening, but knowing these laws and how they interact with your life is very important. One law is whatever you send out is going to come back to you. What we call karma or reaping what you sow. I mean, it's got lots of different names, but the important thing is that you recognize that whatever you put out is going to come back to you, whether it's in your thoughts or in your words or in your actions or in your intentions. It's very important to do it intentionally. Another one of those immutable laws is ask and you shall receive. It's as easy as that. Whatever you ask for, you must get. So we start our calls out with asking for protection, for guidance, and truth. If you carry those 3 things with you at all times, you're walking on the safe side of the street. Protection, divine protection, can be there for you all the time. Every day is a new day by design. And so until your energy gets so strong that nothing or no one can impact you, and if someone tries to impact you, you're instantly alerted. Until you get to that point, it's really a good idea to start every day asking for protection, for guidance, and for truth. And right now, as all of you know, we got a lot of fake everything coming at us. And so it's really important to ask to know truth, ask to recognize, to be able to integrate and step out in truth. And then lastly is the guidance. We're all walking a precarious path, individually designed. No two of you are on the same path. It's really important to always have your own individual guide or GPS system guiding your way. So how do we do it? Any way you want. You can say it with words, you can say it with intentions, you can see it happening. It's as easy as I gratefully acknowledge and appreciate the protection, guidance, and truth that I receive in all things at all times. Again, no magic words. You can do it any way you want, but do always take the time to do it. The second phase then is when we're actually doing the light work, that it's important to know that you're here to play in the light, to bask in the light, to use the light. Light, love, God all carry the same vibration, and we play in it all the time. Before we do that, I'm going to just stop and ask if there's anything that anybody wants to share or ask before we get going into our little light work. So anybody want to have any issues or anything they want to acknowledge from this week? And then the third phase, which we do after the light work, is just open conversation. You can ask questions, you can make comments any way you want. So
theme.
But I wanted to give Stacey a chance to welcome. Hi, welcome back, David.
Yes, welcome back, David and Mayfair. So
Josie, Jennifer, Heather, Stacey, yay, and all of our invisible friends.
Yes, and our Nova Scotia friend is also here.
Yay.
So for me, this week is very much to let go and let God, that it is very much letting go, release all the attachments, all of the everything, old stories, old traumas, old pains. And it's very much focus on what do you really want and be specific. But it's a lot about letting go this week for me. For those of you that don't know, my dog just passed, and it was quick, it was sudden, and I'm also moving.
It was sad.
It was sad, yeah. So I've just been in a very much process of those emotions coming in and allowing them to come in, and also learning to trust the process, and it's what she wanted. So it's just been an intense week.
Okay. Well, you know, we're all sending you love. I want to hear from David. Would you mind unmuting yourself, David, and sharing with us a little bit about you, since you're a new face?
Sure. 1 second here. Let me get back to the video here.
And is your name David?
It is David. Yes.
Okay.
Here we go. Maybe that's a little bit better.
Hi, David.
Right. Hello. How are you doing?
I'm good.
Well, good to see you.
So how did you find us, and what are the main things you're playing with in your life?
So I've seen Stacey on Instagram before, following her. So, and I do my own Bible studies on Sunday nights on Instagram. So I've got about 700 followers. It's called David Slays Goliath. And I just try to teach biblical principles people can apply to their lives, and understand that, you know, God's ways are not our ways. A lot of times we come to God and we approach it from a world point of view. And I believe you reap what you sow, and you need to ask, but sometimes we ask amiss, right? If we ask selfish things that don't line up with God, don't think we're going to get those things. It's really about, I'm sure all of you have, and I know we're all at different points spiritually. We probably don't agree on every point, but we've all heard the Lord's Prayer, right? Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done as earth as it is in heaven. Well, I don't think it's so much a prayer of those exact words, but a prayer of Jesus was teaching us a structure. Approach first with respect and praise and honor when you're talking to the infinite creator of the universe, and then understanding what his will is. It's not just always coming about me. It's lining our will up with his will, so that he could work through us, and we will be blessed, and we will receive, and seek first the kingdom, and then all these things will be added unto you. It's getting our mind right and our understanding right, that he created us with talents and with gifts and with individual personalities and uniqueness, but he created us with a purpose, and it's seeking out that purpose of how we each spread that truth and love and forgiveness in and through the gifts and the talents and the influence we have in each of our lives. That Heather, and Stacy and Josie, you have people of influence in your world that I'll never reach, and I have people that I can influence that you guys may never reach, and spreading that truth in each of our lives.
One of the things that you mentioned is Lord's Prayer, and I don't know if you can see this somewhere. Can you see it yet? Okay, there we go.
I can.
I actually have this so I could go through the words and talk about it, because I think the Lord's Prayer is much more true to what we're doing than anybody would dare dream, except we just define the words differently today. So we've lost some of the connections with them.
Right.
But it's actually one of my intentions that one of these nights we take the Lord's Prayer apart and really see how true it is for our lives. Well, thank you for being here. I look forward to
it's a pleasure to be with you guys and listen to you. And Stacy, and I'll lift you up in prayer with the loss of your dog. That's sad, and I will keep you in my prayers. So,
and that's where that ability to trust that everything is in divine order is very, very important. And it's most challenging to do when there are times of distress. So I'm very proud of Stacy that she's been able to maintain that trust and recognize that the dog is where the dog has chosen to be, and everything is indeed in divine order.
I totally agree that, and the hardest thing, the truths in the Bible are not complex for the most part. They're very simplistic, but that doesn't mean it's easy. So, yes. Keeping our eyes on God and not keeping our eyes, walk by faith, not by sight. We get our eyes on the storm. Jesus was so mad at the disciples in the boat when the storm came up, and you reflect on that day. I mean, he's mad because they were just with him for 5 hours. He's teaching, all of these people on the shoreline and giving the truth of God and spiritual principles. And here they have an opportunity to exercise it that evening when they're taking the boat across the Sea of Galilee. And they just totally forgot everything they just learned that day. And I think that was the biggest thing of why he was so frustrated and angry. And it's like, oh, ye of little faith, So it's we got to learn to walk in those principles of keeping our eyes on God in the midst of
trust everything is in divine order. There's a divine plan that we're all a part of.
Yes.
And we have to just follow our hearts, do what we feel guided to do, and then trust. So again, thank you, David. I'm going to
I'll mute myself.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. And then someone is asking if you would post your channel and time Jennifer's asking if you post your time and channel in the discussion. So apparently
I wasn't here to advertise. I don't just rudely do that. I'm not here, but I'd be happy
Jennifer's,
to
Okay, Jennifer's learned to ask for what she wants. So,
Okay, so I can post it, but it's Sunday
Okay.
nights, 6 p.m. Pacific on Instagram, and it's David Slays Goliath.
Thank you, David.
But thank you. Okay.
You follow me on Instagram too. So if you're friends with me, you can go to my followers and then just put David, you'll see him.
Okay. All right. And so for those of you who are new to us and those of you who are online who are new to us, our period of playing with the light is very important and very purposeful. Light, love, God all carry the same vibration. We're learning how to use this light in a very powerful, intentional way. And I equate it to how we learned how to make a light bulb, and then we learned how to use it to illuminate our world so that we could turn day into night and night into day without any difficulties. And as we learn to manipulate those light beams, we now have lasers that can take planes out of the air. We can take and remove cataracts off the eyes. It can be as gentle or as forceful as you choose it to be. And it's just light. It's just those little teeny beams of light that we have learned to control and manipulate. As I've said many times, light is the most powerful vibration in the planet, in the universe. And so light, love, God are all the same names, different names for the same thing. And so as we intentionally use that light to impact the world, we literally put a ripple out in the world that continues to change. And so, if you will, I'd like you just to see yourself as that divine essence. We are made in the image of God. I do not believe that we look like God. I believe that image is the base word of imagination. We create in our imagination just as God created us in our imagination, in the image of God, in the imagination of God. And now we get to co-create a world of love, a world of divine oneness, a world of awakening to our divine potential. So if you will, just see yourself as that light, as that pure divine potential. Move to your place of center, whatever that is to you, your place of happiness, your place of joy, your place where you feel most trusting, most love-filled, that place of beingness. I want you just to imagine a pillar of light all around you. This light is that heavenly vibration that we have agreed to be the go-between between the heavenly energies and our earthly energies. We are anchoring heaven to earth, and we do it through our vibration, through our intention, through our energy. When you agree to serve, whether you call it God or the divine or the universe, doesn't matter. It's all the oneness. And when you agree to serve, that energy then can work through you, and you can work through the energy. So if you will, I want you to just imagine filling this earth with love and light. Just filling every space, every molecule, every atom in, on, and around this planet with your love. Collectively combining with all those who are of like intention. We're here to serve the greater good, and we just love it. And then we send this love and light out into the atmosphere. The atmosphere is to the earth as our skin is to our body. It's a very important protective covering, and our job is just to love it. So see your love just surrounding this planet and all its inhabitants. And weather patterns are how the earth finds her balance. So we're going to love all the weather patterns. And whenever we see extreme weather, we're just going to love it. And on this planet right now, there are a lot of people, beings who want to screw things up. They want to disrupt the atmosphere. They want to disrupt the planet. They want to disrupt the weather. They manipulate, alter, control them for their own benefit. And our job is to love them. So we just send lots and lots of love to all those who are what my friends call the lesser lights. Everything is of God, but not everyone lets their light shine. So we just love the lesser lights. And then we send love and light out into the world, filling the mass consciousness with love. The mass consciousness is sort of this etheric vapor that connects us all. And the more love you put into the mass consciousness, the more that mass consciousness affects humanity in a very loving way. And our job is just to love it. As we begin to recognize the oneness of all humanity, of all species on this planet, we begin to bind ourselves to that collective consciousness that consists of love. And then all those on the planet who are here to serve the divine, to serve for greater purpose, who are here to help this planet move into a time of peace and harmony. We love them. And on this planet, there are a lot of influencers, whether it's on social media or traditional media or people in political offices or different positions of power. They're in positions to influence other people. And what we want to do is just love them. Regardless of their message or of the type of influence they're having, our job is just to love them. Not to alter them, not to change them. That's manipulation, that's control, that takes away everyone's right of free will. But the more love we put out, the more love can influence them. And you always want to just send love unconditionally. No strings, no attachments, just freely given to everything and everyone. And we send love and light to all the leaders of this planet, all the political leaders at federal, international, state, local level. Our job is to love them, whether they're working from an honorable position or a selfish, greedy one. We're just going to love them, knowing that everyone falls under the laws of karma, the law of reaping what they sow. It's not our job to judge, it's not our job to punish. We just love them. And we send love and light out to all of our little viruses, whether they be real or in someone's imagination, whether they be created or a divine result of something else. Our job is just to love every one of those little viruses. And while we're at it, we can love all the bacteria and all the bugs and be grateful for this incredible world of diversity that's been created on our behalf. And then see all of those vaccinations that are going to so many different people all around the planet. And just imagine every one of those shots filled with love, unconditional love. And everyone who gets one of those vaccinations gets also a huge dose of divine love. We're part of an amazing drama that's unfolding on this planet, and our job is to love it, to be ever receptive to our role in it, and to just love it. And right now, there are a lot of people on this planet who operate through greed. Money can be an influence that can change people instantly. So I want you just to imagine every coin, every bill, every monetary unit around the planet being filled with divine love. And anyone who touches them feels that divine presence. Humanity has been controlled with sex and money. It's time to be free of that and let love and unconditional harmony be our own personal guide. But because there's free will, people get to choose what their motivating principles are. And our job is to love them. Imagine all the children on the planet, all the children who are having happy childhoods and those who are having not so happy childhoods, those who are being used and abused. We want to love them. Just imagine everyone being filled with this divine presence, surrounded with this divine love. They're all teaching us lessons. Our job is to be open to the lessons. And then there are lots of heavenly helpers here to help transition this planet, to move it into a new way of thinking, a new way of acting. And so we want to send those heavenly helpers even more love. Just with a heart full of gratitude, with love and appreciation, just send them love. And if it be in accordance with divine will, we surround each one with a mirror finish so that anything other than love is sent to them, it's bounced back. It's reflected back to the sender. In all things, we're grateful. And then imagine you opening your heart to receive, opening your body to receive, opening every cell up to receive, opening every DNA strand to receive this love back. Everything you send out must come back to you. But it's a choice whether to be open to receive this love. Feel how it feels when it penetrates every aspect of your beingness. Your capacity to hold love, to be love, is equal to your capacity to send love. So we have to be able to receive love to the same level, degree as sending it. So you want to keep stretching our ability to receive love, so we stretch our ability to send love. And then we give permission to the angels to continue to use this love, this energy that we've created, in any way that serves the planet and its people. Make us ever aware of our role in this divine drama and what we can do to aid humanity's moving into a state of love, honoring, appreciating, recognizing our ability to co-create heaven on earth. In all things we're grateful. So be it. And so if there's anything you want to share, anything you want to ask, anything you want to say, any reactions you want to have, please feel free to do so. I like to I feel like a soup that's just simmering in the energy. I like to sit in the energy for a second.
That's how
Jennifer?
it feels so relaxed. I don't even know if I'm going to get these words out. but it never ceased to amaze me. Every week we do this, the feeling that you receive after sending out all that love.
It makes us wonder why we ever stop. It feels, it's like such a natural high that why would we stop to judge the driver next door or the guy down the street or the Karen in the store or whatever? We move into that very toxic energy. It feels horrible. We feel horrible while we're in it. So why do we do it? What's the habit that's been bred into us that we forget how good it feels just to be in love? And in this state, so what if a Karen's blowing off next to you? And I hate that term, by the way. Or something's going on. We just go, yeah, isn't it cool? But
Well, you shouldn't hate anything. It's not worth hating.
that's true. I should love the term Karen. When it first started popping up, I wrote all kinds of Facebook posts, and then I finally said, okay, somebody's needing that experience. I don't enjoy when they use feminine terms to
Then
insult someone.
why are you using it?
Because everybody knows what it is. It's a common term.
Change it and just say someone next to you is being a punk.
Okay. Yeah, unfortunately. I have twin brothers that are 12 years younger than I am. And when they were growing up, they spent a lot of time at my house because I lived close to their high school. And they would insult each other by calling them mothers or woman. I'd throw them out of the house. Get out. Get out. You're not going to come in here and insult my gender. Get out. So they finally stopped doing it in my presence.
I would agree with Jennifer though, like that the meditation always just brings you back. I feel like it's like a place of peace inside of yourself. It's like that homeness. It's like,
Yeah.
And then nothing else matters. But I think that's a really important reminder to replay this every day or do it yourself every day. To just send out love and receive the love back.
Makes me want to cuddle up with your pink soft sweater.
That's why I wore it. I wanted something extra little lovey and kind and gentle. And what's up, Ray? My girlfriend, she's in South Korea.
Oh,
Teaching English.
that's a long way away.
Yeah.
Are there any comments online that you want to share?
We got
Stacey?
Jen B saying hello. We got, of course, our Esme and Becky and our Soulful Intimacy, which I remember. Goshen, if I remember right, hopefully, from Nova Scotia. It was fun. She said earlier about this week that personally she's feeling some strong energies coming in, but she's with Stacy. I'm just allowing and dreaming big. And then she said, so sorry, Stacy.
And this is a very powerful time for manifesting. So it really is the time that you want to be very clear on what you want to bring to you, because with this intense energy becomes faster manifestation. You know, when we talk about co-creating our world on this planet, it means we have to be an active participant in that. And that's when we set our dreams, we set our intentions. That's our part in this co-creative process. Anything?
Oh, so close. Gosha. Gosha from Nova Scotia. That's funny. Okay. Gosha.
Thank you. Anything else you want to share? Ask. Talk about.
I just find how, as I saying, she's sewing as she watches. And that was the thing last time. She really liked the comment of inch by inch, it's a cinch, yard by yard, it's hard. She's like, it's a perfect sewing thing. True. I really do see so many levels that as you're going, it's fun because you know when you're entering in the higher state levels of ascension, because your gifts that you don't call gifts, our natural abilities turn more on. And so I think it's part of the gift of being able to know and understand is feeling like the more in tune with everything. Like, you know who's calling you next, you know who's, it's like you're consciously connecting before the physicality. And I find that it's really lovely to come home to our natural abilities. I think it's like the good part of doing the work, or the benefits of doing the work, or I don't know. Blank.
Well, it's like if you go to the gym and you work out, you build your muscles. You can pick up stronger and heavier things. By picking up stronger and heavier things, you build your muscles and you get more and more strong. It's a wonderful cycle. The more you use those muscles, the more those muscles are there for you to use them, and the more they empowered they become. And the same thing with your spiritual aspects. We don't see the energy, we don't see the results of our workout, but the more you do it, the more you have the results. A lot of people talk about ascension as if you wake up one morning and you're ascendant, like when you were 7 and your teeth fell out. You woke up one day and your front teeth fell out, and that was sort of a sign of growing up. And then when your new tooth came in, yay. But the spiritual journey isn't that overt. It isn't that obvious. It's an internal process, and it's a continuous process. It started as soon as you began to wake up and realize there was a spiritual journey, and it won't end till you're dead. How far you get on that journey is a product of the choices that you make. There's no magic formula. There's no must, should, could, those kinds of things. It's today. Are you going to be loving? Are you going to be kind? You're going to get the opportunity to crab off with someone. You're going to get the opportunity to judge someone. Do you choose the judge, or do you choose the love? Do you choose to insult, or do you choose to go the Southern route with bless their heart? It's every moment with every decision you make chooses whether your energy begins and continues to accelerate. What I see is going up, a fast spin. The faster the spin, the more you have access to things in that faster spin. But if you go through a week of really bitchy times and you're really angry and you're really upset, that energy can go back down. It's not continuous. It's a choice. And as you go up, then what happens is you have to let go of the things that are keeping you down, because you'll get to the point where you're like stretched. So it's like, ooh, I got to let go of that toxins. I have to let go of those old thoughts. I have to forgive that person. I have to do this. And you'll feel yourself getting into places where you can't continue unless you let those things go, including letting go of meat. And I'm told it's not meat that's so negative to our spiritual journey. It's the vibration that meat has. Because we treat our meat so horribly, because we're not kind to them, we're not in any way respectful to them, that it carries that vibration of fear and trouble, so that when we consume that meat, we're consuming that vibration, and it lowers you down. I mean, if I even accidentally get meat, like a broth in my mouth, I can feel it instantly, and I get sick, like I've got the flu for 24 hours. And so you'll get to the point where your diet starts changing. You find that you're doing a lot more, natural foods, and letting go of all the artificial stuff, that you're not wanting that meat. And you don't have to make a decision to be a vegetarian. Just tell your body what to tell you what it wants, and you'll find everything shifts. But when you go out to dinner, it's a choice. Do you eat light, or do you consume your steak? It's a choice. And every minute of every day of every activity, your choice is to continue to raise your vibration, raise your frequency, raise the dimension that you operate in, or not. It's as easy as that. And when the vibration goes up, the knowledge and wisdom and skills that you have access to expands. And so that's where you're beginning to recognize, oh, I can tell who's going to call me when the phone rings. I know things before other people know them, and there's no reason. That's where the clairvoyant, the clairaudient, the clairsentient become much more apparent, not because you took a class in them, but because your vibration is rising and you have greater natural abilities. And so, if you continue, and then as you get the abilities, use them. Don't put them on the shelf for Sunday afternoon or until you hang out a shingle to do readings. You use them in all the situations and all the times, because that continues to build trust in your skills, in your abilities, and trust in your connection, which then takes you to the next level. So it's this huge, wonderful, dynamic, intertwined process, but it is not steps. It's not, oh, I'm ascending. It's this breath and this breath and this thought and this decision and this choice continuously. And if you pay attention to your body, you'll know when you're going up, and you'll know when you've done a little backsliding. And then you just choose to choose again. You don't need to beat yourself up. Just choose to choose again.
Well, I think that's part of it too, is each time we get hit with that same lesson on another level and another level. And it's like, sometimes you're like, why am I in repeat? And you're like, okay, because I haven't mastered it yet. This is your time to master it. Are you ready to master it? And it's like, you have a choice. Do you want it to be ease and grace? Do you want it to, you know what I mean? So it's like, I find that each time I move through it, like I have more, okay, choose love. Okay, choose love. Like, oh, it keeps happening. So I'm like, okay, choose love. And each time I do, it is repeating. And I think, even with the loss of my dog this week, it's like, it's not the first time this has happened, but it's the first time I feel like I've been able to more surrender and trust that it's her decision and her thing, and giving her the ability to say, okay, we can do XYZ, we can do this, you let me know. And so it's a process, but I definitely feel as we move through each lesson with more love, more light, compassion for self and understanding, as you allow the feeling to feel and let that go through its cycle, that is the deeper level of the trust and surrender come in. It's like the deeper you go into this way is the deeper you're going to go into here. So it's like that, it's that widening. Does that make sense?
And yet we still have to continue our compassion for humanity. So if you have a day where you'd say you backslid, it's not backsliding. It's about remembering these decisions that humanity has to go through as well, because our journey is to shine the light on the process so others can follow our path. And so we never will get so far above humanity's challenges that we can't relate to them. And then, when we have these things, these cycles, as you're saying, coming back around, it isn't always because we didn't learn the lesson. It's because now we have to get it at a deeper, bigger level. Just like if you go to the gym and you get one of those kettlebells and you can do the kettlebell exercises for 15 pounds, then you do it for 20 pounds. And then when you do it for 20 pounds, you can get it for 25 and so on. So you keep stretching yourself to go bigger and more capable. And that's the same thing with the spiritual process. It's not that we arrive one day and we have this ability, so I'm done with that ability. No, we're going to go deeper. How much do you trust it? For instance, in clairvoyance, when you're given awarenesses of what's happened, do you act on it? Do you trust it? When your intuition bubbles up and you get this knowing, how do you treat that knowing? How do you act on that knowing? Or do you pretend it doesn't exist? Do you keep your spirituality hidden in the closet? Or do you talk about it, share it, so that others can also follow you? So there's just all kinds of aspects of it. But know, if you have a pulse, you are on a spiritual journey. And you will be on the spiritual journey, the ascension process, until you don't have a pulse.
Very true. And I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say testing, because I don't necessarily agree with the universe, God testing, but it's the word I would say we can most identify with. but it's, do you really believe your core beliefs? Do you really trust that everything is for you and not to you? Do you really believe that you know what I mean? God has your back. Do you really like, so it's, I feel like at some level it's like having you connect deeper into your core beliefs, having you connect deeper into your boundaries of self-worth and self-love, and you knowing your value. It's you. So it's like the more we choose into that too is where magic starts to live.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. It's a continuous process. I do know that we do have tests, and we give ourselves these exams to see if we're ready for the next level. Did we really pass that? Um, in my book, Perfect Power and Consciousness, I talk about the 6 doors, is how it was explained to me. There are 6 doors, and each door indicates a level of attainment. If we think about, for instance, going to school, we're in first grade, we learn for 180 days all this first grade stuff. And then we go to second grade, and then we learn the second grade stuff. And then in Indiana, we do these core tests at third grade to see if we really learned the stuff. So the state gives us tests periodically to see if we really attained all that information. Well, the universe sort of does the same thing. And at level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, or fourth door, there is specific tests. I know and I talk about them. It's been 20 plus years since I wrote about it, so I don't remember all the details, but I know that level 4, the fourth door that you have to traverse in your journey, is unconditional love. I think the door 3 was unselfish service. And I'm told that's a tougher one for people to get through, because by that time they have skills and they don't want to give their gifts away. They want to charge for it. And so unselfish service is one of the challenging ones to get through. And then unconditional love, when you go through unconditional love, you'll actually have a group consciousness that works with you. And I'm told they have worked through with every person who's ever been on the planet who's worked through the fourth door with them. It's like a coaching group, and eighth dimensional consciousness is a group consciousness that comes in and literally helps tutor you and practice you to get through that. And I've shared before, but it was so profound, I'll share it one more time. I had a dream in my dream state, and it was a horrendous dream. I was being brutally raped by a group of young derelicts with dirty teeth, which is my big bugaboo. They had dirty teeth. And it was a horrible scene, except I felt such love and compassion for them. I kept thinking, what in the world has made these people so disturbed at such a young age, because they were early 20s. And I woke up with such compassion for these people who were so brutally horrible that I'm thinking, I must be really, really sick. This has to be a really work. And in this dream state, it was all the feelings, sensations, thoughts, perceptions of a real life experience, except it happened in my dream state. So it took me about a week to finally calm down. And then I asked, what was that about? And they said it had been a simulation. I now recognize simulations, but simulations are experiences that have all the reality of the reality, except they're not real. But they have all the texture, the shape, the sequence, the memories, the thoughts, the smells of real life experience. And they said that the test was, would I be able to love these people under the worst of life circumstances? And they said I got an A+, that I passed that test as few on the earth ever have. And I thought, well, yay for me. I did really wonderful. And so, but that was sort of how I learned about the test. And then about a week later, I had another simulation, only this time I caught my husband in bed with this ugly woman who was mistreating her kids. All my buggy-boos. And it was like, she's ugly. He couldn't at least chosen somebody who was cute. But I mean, I was tremendous anger. And in my dream or simulation, I knew I could zap her off the planet. I knew I could zap him off the planet. I knew I could destroy them with just a thought. And I also knew that I would pay a consequence for that. So I had to literally talk myself off the edge, and eventually it ended and I woke up, and they said that when I got a C- on, that I passed it, but only by the skin of my teeth. That when my possessions, as I saw Bob was a possession, when my possessions were being threatened, that's when I was really triggered, but I'd passed it. So we have those things, and it's to make sure that we can't misuse our power. I mean, there's a lot of things I'm capable of now that I could do real damage if I chose to use the skills in that way, but I would pay a tremendous cost. So you don't want to give yourself permission to have these powers if you're not able to handle them. You know, sort of like giving a 5-year-old a machine gun. Very, very dangerous. So people who get guns learn how to use them safely. They learn how to aim and safely put on the safety things and all that stuff. I mean, if you have something of great power, you have to learn how to use it safely, whether it's driving a car or shooting a gun. And that's sort of the way we do with our spiritual gifts. But when we think about Jesus, who turned water into wine, who walked on water, who, you know, had all these amazing powers, that's where we're going. We can do all of those and more when we trust ourselves, when we allow ourselves to be our best version of ourselves.
So someone said, what happened to Jesus? Because he's not come back. And, you know, as far as I've heard, that no one's going to save us. We got to save ourselves.
But Jesus comes back through all of us. I don't believe that there'll be the cross reappeared and Jesus is going to be there. I think each one of us are being asked to step into our Christ itself to attain those powers. Jesus said, in my opinion, he said, I'll show you the way.
Okay.
He didn't say, I'll do it for you. So we're following Jesus's footsteps as far as clarifying, loving all the messages that Jesus left for us to learn. Is about our becoming empowered, becoming our Christ itself, so that we can do what needs to be done. You know, when there was just one Christ, he was murdered. And of course he agreed to that, because had he died an old man that, you know, in his bed, there would be no stories about him. I mean, he had to have that big ta-da ending. So people went, oh, that's the man. So that was part of his story. And he knew that from the get-go. We each have our own story, but our mission is to become our own Christ itself and step into that power to the same extent that Jesus did. You know, when he said that, don't you know that you're gods? And another place he said, these things I do, you can do these and greater still. If you believe that, then you have to start acting on it. And he cast out evil spirits. And we're talking about psychic protection. We just use different words, but it's the same process.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And if just little old Jesus came back, you know, how many people would be trying to kill him in a breath? You know, look at the doctors who speak out against the evil. Oh, they're killed. The different things that are going on the planet where they just silence the person who speaks out. When everybody rises up, which is what's happening, we're all being tickled, so we can go, oh, cut this out, you know, then it'll be such a mass it won't stop. Plus it'll shift the mass consciousness. When the mass consciousness is shifted, it's going to be the species that shifted, and it won't be able to be stopped, which is why we, you know, put lots of love into the mass consciousness, because that's the influence for the planet.
And just a good example to understand how mass consciousness works, if that's new for you, is the 100 monkey theory. Is that when started rinsing their dirty potatoes that were in sand, that started putting in the water, and enough monkeys would start doing it, that once it got to a certain point, monkeys from other countries and territories and
islands. The study was done in Japan. It was on different islands.
There you go. And so it's spread in their conscious, energetic. It would be impossible for their physicalness to spread to seed to another. So when enough of the monkeys got to learn how to rinse their food off in the water, then it just started tickling out everywhere. So it's just kind of an idea of how the consciousness works.
I know that was so cool.
When I started this journey, my pre-work was in the 80s, and then in the 90s, I actually started full tilt. There was nobody talking about consciousness or frequencies or dimensions. I mean, those were very, very few would even acknowledge or mention it. There had been a sprinkling through history, but not very many. Now everybody's talking about it, and it's become part of the language of the times, where people talk about frequency and vibration. So whether they understand it or not doesn't matter. It's part of the consciousness of the planet. And that's exactly what we're doing on a much bigger scale. We're shifting the consciousness. Everything we think and do goes into, I don't know who said that. Jennifer said they would delete Jesus's Twitter account. And that's so true. And so, we saw how Trump was attacked unmercilessly, continuously. He was attacked for everything he did, said, looked, his hair. I mean, so we would just imagine what dear little Jesus would be bombarded with. Not that it would stop him, but it certainly would cause a rising up. And that rising up, the polarization, is what we don't want. The more I attack someone about their beliefs, the more they dig in their heels and say, okay, I'm right and you're wrong. And it actually puts them more in their position. That's not what we want. I was told that that's why Trump had to lose, it appears to lose the election, is because the opposition was getting even stronger. But by having no opposing forces, you see that whole barrier that separated thoughts are now being broken down, because they're seeing the world through different eyes, and there's no common enemy at this point in time. It's all divinely perfect. We have to just trust that. Our job is to love everybody and bless their little heart, their cotton picking heart.
And I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Like what's happening in Texas now, they're at the border, the governor, that one video that was out, they are now taking matters into their own hands. And I thought, oh, yay, that's a big step, so if that continues.
And Biden's even calling the Mexican government saying, can you keep your people home? And so he's doing behind the scenes, because he's now experiencing the same thing that Trump experienced. So anyway, we have to just trust that there is a wonderful drama unfolding, and we're a part of it. And the more we can just love it, recognize it, if we get this inner knowing to do something, do it. Until then, our job is just to love it, My guidance said start these meetings, so we're doing that. And then whatever else I get guided to do, I'll do as well. It's a journey. Hey.
And I got a miracle, which I have been, that's been bringing me back to, center and everything with Dave, because it could have went totally the other way. So I'm like, thank you for that miracle.
Yes. And for those that didn't know, Dave had a car fall on him and just squished him. And amazingly, he's home and doing relatively well, all things considered. So yeah, you just have to trust that everything is in divine order. Everything is in divine order. And if the need comes for Jesus to be on the planet, we'll see him. And if not, we won't see him. And only those who have the vibrational awareness will see these things unfold. So it's trusting. Yes, Stacy?
I was just gonna say a few things, but one we don't have to worry about anymore. So two is, there's a question from Becky that asks, do you think it's a good idea to teach children manifestation meditations?
I think first of all, when we talk about children, what's the age? I think under the age of 13, I think children should be taught that their words are important and their words begin to create reality, and that to be responsible for their words, for their language. And I think there's different ways of teaching age appropriate messages along that line. At age 13, they should have that knowledge of manifestation well ingrained in their consciousness, because at that point they are responsible for what they say and do, and they are incurring karma. So I think that those lessons should be age appropriate and helping children learn that. But if
That 10 and
If you-
13 was the age.
well, 13, they should have it mastered. By 10, yes, you're teaching those skills. Teaching a 3-year-old that what they say becomes reality, and they say, I hate you, mother, and then mother drops down dead, can create lots of trauma for a child because they feel responsible for it. So you have to be age appropriate and situational appropriate to the emotional development of the child. But those are things that you should be teaching along the way. Yes.
Okay, there you go. Thanks. And we had Laura on here, but she's gone now. So I just wanted to say hi and welcome her.
Yes. You're welcome to jump in and say hello to people who come in. Hello, Elle,
Hi, everybody.
my cupcake lady.
I know. I was late. I was late today. I went and had an amazing experience. I went out to the Everglades, and it was the most stunning, peaceful thing
Aw.
I'd seen, and I can't even remember.
Nature is a powerful teacher.
It was beyond powerful because it's so like noisy, and there's so much ambient light, and it was so breezy and peaceful and calm, and wow. I think I just physically went to heaven and back.
You did. Trees are a great gift.
Wow.
That's why I want to get to my trees.
Yeah,
I saw alligators and everything.
that's awesome. I had a friend just tell me about she sold her property, and it was
So
several.
we did.
My friend sold her property. There was a couple acres of trees, and the new person basically cut down the 80-year-old trees.
Oh God.
Oh.
Where was that property?
In Santa Barbara area.
Well, because this 5G technology and the surveillance technology cannot go through trees, a lot of cities, a lot of places are chopping down trees so that there's a lot more line of sight for everyone. And so just bless them. That those people who are chopping them down have no idea the cost it has to the planet. So, and if you get a chance, start planting trees. That's amazing.
Well, also, I think that's really important that we had a little conversation earlier too, is because of I asked for protection, guidance, and to know truth, I'm seeing things that are subconsciously being planted in LA. And like, for example, signs when you're driving by a freeway, the multiplicity of it, the things that it's hidden messages. And it's like, talk about masking and getting V'd. Don't do it for you, but do it for the people around you. And like all that subliminal that I'm like, you're getting off a freeway and there's walls of it. And it's like, wow, I'm seeing it like right then and there. And it's like, it's so, I'm honored to now have you point that out. Like, that's why I'm seeing it. And so I can see beyond. So it's powerful, y'all. It works.
Absolutely. And the same thing with the media. I mean, if you're watching TV or watching the news, there's lots of subliminal buried in there as well. I think in the 70s sometime there was a book called Subliminal Messages, and it was just talking about then what was buried in those little music things we listen to in stores and elevators and stuff. It's 10 times worse now, if not 100 times worse now. So it really is important that you put on your little protection so you don't let that stuff in your consciousness. Anybody have any other questions or?
I do. What is your viewpoint on, or are they witches? It's about witches and are they able to put curses and spells on people? Is that for real?
When you were little, and I don't mean you personally, but people in general, when they're little and the parents say, oh, you're so clumsy. Oh, you're so clumsy. You're always doing this. Oh, you're so clumsy. And all of a sudden the kid becomes clumsy and he grows up thinking he's clumsy and he's clumsy the rest of his life. Is that a spell or is that just something that was put on him in a negative way? I used to listen to a radio show when I was teaching back in the whenever it was on the Chicago market. And it was a very popular show and they had a helper, remember, that was Marcus. It was like two guys who talked and did all this talking, and then the helper Marcus. And Marcus had to go in for a tonsillitis. And they told him for weeks, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, you're gonna get, they're gonna put you under and you're never coming out. And it was like a joke. They're saying ha ha ha. He went in for his tonsils to be taken out and he died. Because they put that thought in his head so much. So do I believe witches have special powers to make it happen? They have a stronger belief system that will happen, and people believe the words that others speak. That's where the spells to impact someone else's life is. But if you don't believe it, they can't put it on you. I had a woman come to me for a session. She was going in for some kind of surgery, and she was terrified because she'd gone to some psychic who said that she had an evil spirit over her and that this evil spirit was going to do all kinds of havoc unless she paid like $3,000 to have this evil spell taken off of her. And so, I mean, she literally was blackmailing this woman who's going in for surgery for extortion for more money, and even brought her, I mean, had her bring diapers to her and all kinds of stuff, because this woman was terrified of going in for the surgery after this woman said she had a spell. So then she came to me and I said, you got no spell. There's no dark entities. I said, unless you choose to create it. And so I did a couple of my poof-oofs, affirmations and behaviors. She went and had her surgery and had no problem whatsoever. What's your belief system? If you believe these people have the power over your life, they do. And if you believe they're a bunch of phooey, they are. But it's up to you and your beliefs.
Yes.
Okay. That's great.
So, and if someone's asking you for money to take off an evil spell, call me. I'll do it for half the price.
Okay.
And you don't need a rotten egg, or you don't need a box of baby diapers.
You just call Dr. Hara.
And I have found, yeah, diamonds work for me. I don't need diapers. I have found these little roadside psychics. A lot of them play that game.
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot of them.
I had one. I don't know if she was a facialist or something, but you could just feel it. She would be like, you know, if you want this, you have to pay me this much, and I'll do this, and you know, you have this, and I was like, yeah, I'm good. But
So, like,
Have
tomorrow's
you met my mother?
I know
Yeah.
it was interesting. Really, that's how I try to do that.
Say it again, Josie.
Like I had one, because I get all these emails, but I've been unsubscribing from them. Like this lady said, oh, by tomorrow is going to be your luckiest day and you're going to win some money. But I have to do this special, you know, ceremony. So I'll just need a little money, you know, and then
That's when you go, I know what
that's
you
when
are.
I stop reading. Yeah. And they all
Well,
do that. So
And it's the Madison Avenue marketing mindset. You know, they've just got into psychic things, but if you don't use this pimple cream, your skin won't be as soft and supple as your neighbor. And if you don't use this, your hair won't be as soft. And if you don't, and so they use your fears, your concerns, your self issues to make you believe that if you don't have this product or this service, you can't get there from here. And it's been going on for a long time. It's just getting much worse now. And psychics do the same thing. If you got this, and if you don't pay me, we can't make it go away. And or
It's
if
so
you don't buy my
personal.
product. Well, that's what they're good at. That's what
I know.
that's what marketing copy is all about. Find their what they call find their sore spot and poke it.
Right.
So I mean, that's literally the language they use. You want to aggravate their place of hurt and then show them how you've got the solution.
Right.
It's the process. And once you understand that and you can see that, then you can be free of that chain. But if you still think you need something outside yourself to be okay, then you do. It's just a matter of what you're going to have to give outside yourself. When you know that you are unlimited, all powerful, that you can, with your own thoughts and creations, create any world that you want, then you're not going to say, oh, I've got to buy this cream, or I've got to take this vitamin supplement, or I've got to do this, or I've got to do that. You really are free of all that.
And one of the things that I put on the chat on the Zoom is words are spells. So every thought, every statement, I am especially, or power statements, it's spell. It's why we got the word spelling. You create different letters, create a word, and then you create that, and it's like literally that energy. Poof. So it's very important to watch your thoughts and watch your words.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
I'm reading the side thing, and so I'm seeing Maker's thing about seeing light balls in the corner of her eyes and stuff. What I'm finding is I'm getting a lot of peripheral vision, seeing different things, and it's a vibrational shift as we move through different dimensions. That in this dimension, I see this reality, but every dimension we have different realities, and as our vibration goes up, we see into other dimensions. So what we see isn't quite formed in the next dimension yet, but we're catching pieces of it. I mean, I see all kinds of animals in my house that I don't feed. We're seeing lots more spirits and ghosts. We're seeing being aware of a lot more presence than we were. And so that's just part of the side effect of our evolving vibration. And it's not a bad thing. It's not a good thing. It just is a thing.
It's just part of that ascension. I had a girlfriend talk about that today. She could see like little energy glimpses, like almost like sparkles of light where the dog would be. And I said, it's what you're doing is you're going into the higher levels. So you're not fully into that level, but because you're raising it, you're starting to see the different dimensions. And that's
well, with other dimensions, they don't have a physical form. So there's nothing there to see. The sparkles are them. And so you just have to trust that whatever is divinely perfect.
well, it's like you're tuning into the energy blueprint, really. So it's almost like the coding instead of the
Well,
tonality.
I would use different words, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah. Well, it's like you might see something on the website, but when you're looking at the coding, it's just the coding. It's very simple. But what we see is a very different. And so it's like getting back to that, like the energy blueprint. And in the 3D dimension, physicality is very different than. Someone said that I was seeing that today Jen B, for the first time from the corner of my left eye. It was colorful lines. So. There you go.
Just share your gratitude again. When the most powerful thing we can do besides pure love is gratitude. So just send your gratitude for that. You can call on your an angel helper to help decipher what you're seeing. And there's all kinds of ways of dealing with it, but don't get spooked and don't run away. It's just shifting.
My mom I gave her an amethyst cluster and I put it under her pillow, and then nothing was happening in her room until last night. She said she could feel the bed, like, something moving on it. And so she's just been saying she hates that room. She hates that room. And I'm like, well, you saying that is just not helping. It's just like drawing it to you. And so I don't know. I've tried everything. So.
Amethysts are a sonic cleanser. They clean the energy. They're not necessarily a protector. And so the rainbow obsidian, black tourmaline, some of those stones may be better at protecting.
Okay.
rather than, and I can't imagine having a amethyst cluster under your pillow because they're kind of sharp and pointed. If the pillow gets moved, she could do serious damage to her little face.
Yeah.
So
It's,
you might want a smoother
Like, hi.
thing.
let's-
I know. Yeah, I can't
more
imagine
like
sleeping
Jen.
on that. I might put that under my bed to clean the energy, but I wouldn't put it under my pillow.
Well, come on, Mom. It's like
well, I had it like, to the pillow next to her, but closer to her, her head, but
I'd put it
Sorry.
under her bed. I would have it under her pillow. I'm trying to find
but I
my,
have to get the black tourmaline. I think that is the best one.
and then you tell it again. Stones will do lots of things of their own, but when you empower them with your intention, it makes them even more powerful. I'm looking for another book, but I'm not seeing it. So, okay. Anyway, so again, we have the power. Stones just work for us. It's not
Okay.
like we need to do whatever.
you're looking for your kaleidoscope book, the Earth.
No. You can just take a sheet of paper and write on it and put that under her bed. And again, you have the power. It's your level of confidence, your level of trust, your level of knowing. You don't have to have a rock. I like
Okay.
rocks, and I have a lot of rocks around me. But those rocks do not have power. I have the power, and it's how I use my tools. Just like a hammer can't build a house, but it's a great tool to have when you're building a house if you know how to use it. The hammer can be for construction or destruction. The hammer doesn't determine that. It's who's using that tool. And the same thing with our stones. We give those stones way too much power. They're a
But-
wonderful helper, but they're not the power.
Yeah, I got you. Okay. Yeah, it's the only thing I could come up with at the time to, satisfy her to go back in that room. But
Well,
I don't know.
again, I do recommend saging and clearing the energy that way. But it's the fears and the things are in her head, and so she's going to be
Right.
inviting them back all the time.
I know.
You might want to get a lovely little pink cap and have her wear it at night, like they used to wear the nightcaps, so it
Mhm.
keeps away all of the bad thoughts and bad energy, so that her head is clear. And by doing that, symbolic, again, the hat is not the place of power, but by doing that, you put that awareness and that intention in her head, that
Okay.
it's her thoughts that are creating it. We want to be all powerful with that.
Okay. Yeah, because I tried to tell her it's just our dog, coming back to visit. She didn't like
Well,
that.
Is she getting ready to die? Is she old? And
No, I mean she's 74 and she still does everything,
I well, just because when people get ready to start doing their Passovers, they often
Okay.
see a lot more spirit and have a lot more of those bridging activities.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Who's next?
Jennifer, what do you want to ask? You look so pensive.
I know. I had questions throughout the week. I didn't write them down. So today I'm just like, I don't know.
Well,
But I do feel a little, yeah, my mind is kind of all over the place. Yeah.
all divinely perfect. Your mind may be shaking itself out like a rug,
Mm.
getting the dust out of the cobwebs.
Yes.
Make it work for you, girl. Who is that guy who did the fashion who go, make it work for you or something worth?
Work it.
Yeah, I forget who the guy was. But anyway,
Carrie says. Tim Gunn.
who?
Him.
Tim Dunn. That's it. Okay. Anybody else? Maver? Ellie? Anything you want to, I mean, anybody else online?
No, it's so funny because I try to absorb everything on these calls, and I'm such a talker. that it's actually when I get on here, I'm like, I don't know, I'm very at peace. So I love listening to everybody. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Anything online, Stacy Elizabeth?
Not yet. Mayfer, you want to say anything? Or Venezuela? Okay, we'll take that as a no.
Okay. Already an hour and a half in, so maybe we just need a short session tonight. No problem.
Sprinkles.
I'm not feeling sprinkles tonight.
Oh,
I'm not
no.
feeling that.
We
Sorry.
haven't had any for a while.
We
I gotta let spirit move. I gotta trust spirit, but I'm not feeling sprinkles.
Okay. Showers.
a little message for the collective.
A message for the collective.
And I also have a question that came in. You talked about being plucked last week. What did that?
Plucked.
He says, yeah. What does that mean?
Plucked. Plucked.
Oh.
Like the spelling bee. Use it in a sentence. How did I use it?
At the end of the world, like we might get plucked.
But how or who? So to leave. Plucked. When you do mention the word plucked, when you get plucked out, like you leave the physical form, but how or who? Is the question from Esme.
Okay, I'm not remembering the situation, so I'm going to have to start from scratch with that. And the there's a song that comes to my mind from my younger days. When end of the world, it ended on the day you said goodbye or something. Really, I forget. Brenda Lee sang it. Okay, the world, in a perfect world, we'll be here for a very, very long time. That we'll just move into a loving consciousness. We'll begin to see and accept truth, that the world will become a more peaceful, harmonious place. That's the best case scenario. Worst case scenario is that we aren't able to save the earth, and the earth gets destroyed, period. Except we've had other planets destroyed, and so the universe has decreed Earth will not be destroyed. It will not be destroyed. So if it gets to the point where there is no potential for saving the Earth, then what will happen is and if you can imagine, right now there are thousands and thousands and thousands of UFOs in the air, in the skies around us. They're protecting us. They're sending energy. There's some fighting. We've got teams from both sides shooting energy at the planet. There's a lot of activity going on, but we don't see it. It's invisible. What will happen is and they're for everything from little scouts to the motherships. Motherships are huge. I was shown one, and they're like 10 to 20 miles wide with layers and layers of environments. So they're like worlds unto themselves. If we get to the point where we can't save the planet, and the divine team that's working with this planet says, okay, got to fix it, then what will happen is the skies will fill up and we'll be beamed up, like the Beam Me Up Scotty. All those that can carry a higher vibration, your cells literally get vibrated, and you are beamed up like they show on TV, and then you'll be aboard these ships. And there's a whole other story. For the people who cannot carry this vibration, because if you move into fear, your vibration sinks down and you can't be airlifted. So those people will just die with the planet, or they won't be died, but they will be destroyed with the planet. And there'll be light workers who stay behind to help them transition, because when you die in a state of distress, you tend to get locked into the area. So there'll be ones that intentionally die to show them, say, hey, come this way. We want to go this way. And this is sort of a fast sacrilege kind of way of explaining it. But then when everybody who can be airlifted is airlifted, then the earth will be totally cleansed. It means everything on this earth will be restored to its natural state, which doesn't sound too bad. That all the destruction, all the pollution, all the everything will be wiped away, and it'll be as beautiful as it was when it was first created. Sounds good, except pyramids won't be here. Machu Picchu won't be here. All the things that we love about the planet won't be here. And all the people who've been airlifted, who've been beamed up aboard these things are going to be out here for however long it takes. And because time is not a constant, we don't know if it'll take a year or 6 months or 2 weeks or 200 years. It's relevant. And when you're on these ships, you don't age like you do on Earth. You evolve in a different way. So what's happening is these beings who are on ships will be evolving. So when the planet is reseeded, repopulated, those people who've been on the ships will be put back on Earth, but they won't be in the physical form like we are. They'll be more spiritual beings. They'll be more translucent. We will have lost the body, the ability to have this physical, dense costume. And so that's the part that makes this cleaning of the earth most devastating, because the body is what makes our life on earth so special. There's lots of planets we can go and lots of things we can learn, but this is one of the few that you literally have a human body to wear and brings you this unlimited world in unlimited different directions. So that's the hard part. That's the sad part. That's the lost part. And so when we're talking about plucking, it's, everybody who can be taken off will be taken off. The Bible calls it, I forget what the Bible calls it, something. But the Bible talks about it. It's the same process, except I use different terms than the Bible does, but it's a beam me up. But before that happens, and again, we don't have time as a constant, so we can't say, 2 weeks before or 2 months before, but a period of time before this mass evacuation, there'll be
Rapture. That's what
the people who will be disappearing in the twinkling of an eye. You may be sitting at a table with 5 people having dinner, and you blink and you look over and one person's gone. And you think, where the hell did they go? They didn't get up. They didn't go anywhere. Now they're gone. But all around the world, in all different stratas and all different life experiences and all different economic levels, there'll be people who disappear in the twinkling of an eye. Whoops, they're gone. And they'll be gone for a period of time. Again, time is not constant, so we don't know how long they'll be gone. It may be an hour, it may be 2 weeks. We don't know how long it'll be, because the earth keeps moving and everything keeps moving, and it's an undeterminate factor. And then they'll all reappear in the twinkling of an eye. They're all back in the same instant, all around the world, all different positions. It might be someone doing a newscast. It might be, someone who is president. It can be all different things, but they'll all be wearing the same outfit made from off-planet material. They'll all have evidence of their story. They'll all be telling the exact same story. And basically the story is, repent. Let's change our ways real quick, because things are going to get serious. And so if we do, like when Jonah the whale, if people in Nineveh changed their ways, nothing happened and he looked like a fool. But if they didn't change their ways, then we know it was destroyed. And so that's exactly what will happen in our place, that we'll have what's called rapture, and then people will disappear in the twinkling of an eye and then reappear with the same evidence saying, it's time, we got to straighten up our act. And we will have one last chance to either straighten up our act or not.
But if we do it on our own accord, we don't go through that.
yes, we can take, and right now every day become a little bit more loving, a little bit more kind, a little bit sweeter, a little bit more loving, and we shift the mass consciousness, and pretty soon everybody's being a little loving, a little more kind, and more honest, less greedy. All those things at lower vibration. There's more singing, there's more joy, there's more happiness, there's more dance, there's more everything, and all of a sudden we just become a nicer place and nothing happens. That's the best case scenario. We are now, and have been for a few years, getting spot clean, where the energy is most dense, where the pollution is most strong, where the greed and corruption is most intense. Those places are getting spot clean now. Good fire wipes out part of California. A good tsunami wipes out Thailand, which has the biggest sex trade tourism in the world. I mean, look at the places that are getting inundated. They're places of great pollution, great greed, great lower density. And those places are being cleaned, and it shifts the energy. Makes a difference.
That's why they say it might be happening to LA.
Well,
In LA.
there are no accidents.
But that's the thing of listening to your intuition. As you've talked, I don't know if it's God that said it, but if for those that have ears will listen, for those that have eyes will see. What is that?
Well, that was a vision I was given, and it was said to me in a very unearthly voice. Everyone will be told, and those that have ears to hear will be told, those that have eyes to see will be shown, and everybody will be where they choose to be. So if someone gets wiped out in California, it's where they chose to be. Oh well.
Yeah, didn't they always say California is going to sink? Since I was young, I can remember people saying that.
Yeah, you're going to fall in the ocean. In 92, there was a time where every big psychic in the world at that time was saying California's going to go in the ocean. Yay. I mean, no, they didn't say yeah, but they were saying it was going to fall in the ocean. I get invited to do 2 weeks worth of workshops in Bali, across the world, in Indonesia. I'm thinking, oh my God, I have arrived. So I get on my flight that literally travels around the world. I have to travel from Chicago to LA, and change planes, and then go on to next. And I think we refueled in Hawaii, and we refueled in someplace else, then Borneo, before it was 36 hours of travel, 24, I think, in the air. But anyway, we get to LA, and my flight that's going to go on decides not to go. And they say, oops, sorry, you're going to be in LA for the next 24 hours. And it's like, but it's going to fall in the ocean. I don't think I want to be in LA for 24 hours. But I'm thinking, there are no accidents. Okay, they give me a hotel. I'm in LA on the very time where they're all saying it's going to fall in the ocean. So it's like me and all these other people were on the plane, and God knows who else. I'm feeling energy going through me like I have never experienced before or since, going through me, where there was just tremendous energy going through. And I'm sure other people were experiencing the same thing, and nothing happened. So was it a coincidence that many of us were sent to do this energy work, or was that part of the design? But when Stacy decided to move to California, I said, if you ever feel like going away, it doesn't make sense, just go away anyway. Just get in your car and go wherever you need to go. But if you look, this is the first time in history that California is having mass exodus. Millions of people are moving out of California. Is that a coincidence? Or is that part of the grand design? People will be where they need to be. And if we lose a few people in California, that's where they chose to be. And that's where we have to be in trust. And that's why my message is follow your heart. Your heart will guide you. Your inner guidance will tell you what you need to be doing, where you need to be. And if you're not getting anything, it's okay.
Yes. And Mafioso, of course, comes in with the witty ones. So you're the one who duct taped California back to the mainland.
I think I was on the team. And I actually met someone who was doing scientific research on this, because it was national news continuously being said. And he was monitoring some kind of something. And he said that in California, they were watching it, this pressure build, where they were really expecting it to fall in the ocean. And then it was like a tea kettle that released the energy. It just shifted in one fell swoop on some technological machine. So something happened that it didn't happen. But whether that's the next case or not, we don't know. But it's just really important that everybody follow your heart.
And as Mom has pointed out, as I've talked about on here, for you that don't know, I've been living in my same house for 11 years and I love it. And I'm obsessed with my house. I love where I live. I love like everything. I'm next to the ocean. I have the best breeze, and it's sold. So I'm forced to move, but I'm also had a challenging time being in LA during the quarantine because the mind control is legit here. I noticed the signs today, all the stuff that's happening. It's and they're hardcore.
And you only have to follow a bit of the information to see how corrupt the Hollywood industry is and how filled with
pedophilia,
icky things.
Yeah. Well, and I worked in TV film for, almost 15 years too. So it's interesting that I'm now at the point where I have to give up my home. I have to give up things. There's hardly any work in the industry shooting. And so it's I'm being forced to leave, but I also feel energetically okay, I'm ready. I don't know what's next, but it's this, okay, I'm following it. And I don't know if you guys follow Phil Goodlife, but he's got a lot of supporters and stuff. And he's also in LA. And he said this thing on the, one of his messages was talking about, I just moved into this new apartment and my guys told me I'm not going to be here long. He was surprised because he loves it so much. It's his perfect little place. And I'm using my own words to kind of sum it up, but that in a year from now, everything he has right now is going to be gone. He's just going to get up and leave and it's going to totally change and totally shift and make this, to me, what sounded like an earthquake of you're going to lose everything. You're going to get it. You know what I mean? Move into the next thing. But it was fascinating to hear seeing what he's talking about, even though I don't think he even sees it as that, if that makes sense. It was pretty wild. And then I had another friend because my mom talked about it and I mentioned it to them and he got chills in the spine. He's he'd lost his job and also in LA and the universe is kind of making him saying, okay, it's time to leave. But he's same thing. I don't know what's next. So it's an interesting.
And that's why you don't want to resist it. You want to just say, okay, what's next? Open the door, show me the window. I want to be guided to the next place. You just tell the universe what you want.
Yes. And I find it fascinating that I have so many friends that are in the process of moving, leaving, things shifting, things changing, whether it's job, Jen, you're talking about moving locations too. Yeah. Mom's talking about moving locations. I'm obviously going to be moving locations. And one of the things that my girlfriend told me today that I was oh my God, I love it because now we're pulling in what we do want. And she's get specific. And she's this is why you're calling me. She's because you need to, when you're pulling in, sorry, my hair is all wild. Whatever you really want for the next phase, you're pulling in. And she's get specific. Cause she's I forgot to mention a kitchen and bathrooms. And so she's got the house she wants and a garage. And I thought that was so perfect because you sometimes take for granted what you do want or what you want, but it's about going specific. I have another, my sister who manifested something, without saying good looking. And then they had everything they wanted without that. And then, manifest this without saying this. And then it's so they got it without the male or female. It's really important right now to be specific on everything.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments online?
Yeah, I'm just living in the trust right now and in the flow. People think I'm crazy, but I don't know. I'm just going with it.
Not only living in the trust, but you're also being prepared. There was a period of time where I was being guided to speak every thought that I think. After I had the period of time of not talking, not talking for 24 hours, which ended up being a week. So I learned to hear my thoughts. Then the next step after that was to say every thought that I had. Don't filter anything, just say every thought. That was really hard but it forces you to get in control of your thoughts when you've got to say every thought you think. Well, I lost a lot of friends that week. But we're all being prepared just to be okay with doing whatever we need to do spontaneously and instantly and with total trust, because that's how we actually do our job. You know, if we work for the universe, they don't give long-term plans. You've got to be able to do it in the instant without question, without doubt. And we're being prepared for that. And I do believe, Jennifer, that you're going to be guided to the place where you're needed politically. You've got a political destiny. And so trust that. I know. But you
Because we
need
have
to,
a lot to rebuild, and it's going to
you
be.
need, you need, well, if we only attract the same kind of people who are in office now, we're only going to get the same kind of results. We have to get a new group of people coming in order to get new results. And we have to get them in mass so they become the majority. If you've ever had fish in fish aquariums, the aquarium will get a mindset. And so when you put a new fish into that aquarium, the community mindset will dictate the behavior of this new fish. So if you've got a very gentle, tranquil, loving little group of fish in your aquarium, the new fish is going to be that way. But if it's a very aggressive community of fish, the new fish will be aggressive. So we have to get enough people into Washington, and I hopefully in this next election that we shift the consciousness of the Congress and of the Senate and whatnot. And so, as I advise Stacy, find out where someone is needed. Contact your either state or local or national office and say, hey, I'm ready to get involved. I want to go in full tilt. How can I serve? And let them start guiding you tomorrow. Kind of late for today, but tomorrow you call and introduce yourself, or go or show up on the door looking the best you've ever looked and say, you know, I'm tired of this. I want to make a difference. How can I help? What can I do? And whatever jobs they give you, do it with the most energy you can until you have built a little relationship, and then say, okay, now where do you need me? Because I want to run for office. And my best advice. Yay.
Sure. The downside for me for that though is I don't like the party, and you know you kind of have to be in the party to really win.
Yep, but that's exactly what Trump did. There you go.
Yay.
This is from '96. That's what Trump did though. So, hi Anna. If you have any questions or comments,
how are you?
I'm good.
Good, good. I kind of got in a little late. I'm just trying to catch up and listen to what y'all are talking about and stuff.
Oh, I don't think there's a catch up. I think you just got to jump in and start swimming. It's not like an even thread.
Okay, I'll have
But
to
we're-
go back and listen to it.
But we're glad you're here.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Jennifer. I can feel you.
Yeah, I was just gonna unmute. So when you were talking before, one question had popped up when you're talking about the plucking. Is that the same that happened? Did that happen in Atlantis and Lemuria?
No.
No.
It has happened on another planet. We did. And many of us have that sort of that in our cellular DNA kind of thing. We remember, and I've even had dreams of it. So it has happened to us. But in Atlanta, if you've ever watched the reenactments of like Vesuvius with Pompeii, they were more like that. There was a natural disaster, artificially induced natural disaster. There was a bit of warning. There was a lot of escape, and then we lost the landmass. It was not a pluck up. But
they-
Atlantis had lived out a lot of the lessons that we're currently acting out. There was a lot of wild sexuality, a lot of control manipulation, a lot of hierarchies. You know, I'm smarter than you are, I'm more capable than you are, I'm wiser than you are. So there was a lot of superiority with some and belittling others. And so Atlanta had gone to a extreme in lots of different ways. And so it brought, but the actual sinking of Atlantis was brought about by their own behavior.
Did they sink at the same time or were they separately?
No, there was a great distance.
But Mary,
From my perception, now again, this is my perception when time wasn't recorded, you know, so it's very hard to say, oh, this was in the, 2000 BC. There was no recording of time. So how do you say the time frame? But for me, my perception is Lemuria was a preceder of Atlantis.
Mhm.
And then Atlantis preceded the rise of the Egyptian period, which is much older than what we recognize. But they were in different parts of the world, and they were very much, there was some overlap of time when they both existed, but they were very different lessons that were being, like right now, if we were in, we hear a lot about Venezuela and all the corruption, all the issues they're dealing with. And then we hear about Bali and all the environment they've created. They exist in the same time, but they're worlds apart, if that makes sense, both in the mindset and the behaviors and everything else that they're dealing with.
Mhm.
so in Jennifer's question, when you talk about Atlantis, the ending of Atlantis, do you see it going down underwater? How do you see the people just
I
drown?
feel it.
So how do you feel that went down?
A big boom. They were playing with crystals. We have just learning about crystals now. We're sort of putzing with them, but they were seriously dealing with crystals. And so they were using crystals for all kinds of things, from healing, from power sources, just like the Tesla, who was able to use the energy in the world to withdraw, to get it out of the air and use it. I mean, he was far above everyone else technologically. Well, we take that and multiply that, and that was the Atlanteans. They were using natural forces, but they did it in unnatural ways. And literally was like, oops, you shouldn't have flipped that switch. And they, through these natural forces, crystals and energy and whatnot, they started a chain reaction they couldn't stop. We understand the chain reaction of nuclear weapons, that when you split the atom, it continues to split, but we don't understand the magnitude of that and how it continues at going out forever. Well, that's sort of what the Atlanteans did when they started this reaction, this chain reaction. They didn't know how to stop it. So it kept going out there and causing greater and greater destruction until it was real clear, ain't no coming back from this one. And then it was every man for himself, get in your lifeboats, get the hell away from here, because it's going down. And so that's where the technological awarenesses of Atlantis then was spread throughout the planet. That's sort of where people rowed their boat ashore, and all of a sudden Egypt had this technological advancement, and different places got this huge cultural shift because they got drips of Atlantis, but they didn't get the corruption of Atlantis. They didn't, there wasn't enough people to pollute and show how superior they were. But we've all heard stories about these TV ministers and these preachers, and If you haven't heard Ray Stevens' song, Would Jesus Wear a Rolex? I highly recommend you go on YouTube and watch it. But the mindset is that sometimes these ministers, these preachers, think they're bigger than God. They put themselves above. They think they can make decisions for God. They think, I'm not a Catholic, but in my perception, I think the Pope puts himself in that position where he's like, God's voice, God's, whatever. But he's putting himself in a place that's superior to all these other peons. So therefore he can make the decisions and he can just decide how billions of people can live and so on. That was sort of the mindset of Atlantis, except it was the scientists that thought they were the superior force. So Atlantis wasn't so much religiously oriented, it was technologically oriented. And so the people of Atlantis worshiped science. Lemuria was much more of the spiritual balance. They had much more of that mindset. Atlantis wasn't so much spiritual. It was, if you felt like being decadent, you would. I mean, you could step over a couple copulating on the sidewalk. It wasn't unusual. It was very much not loving and kind and gratitude for what they had. It was, I did this, I can do whatever I want. So
Fascinating.
does that answer your question, Jennifer?
So fascinating.
To me, Atlantis, I don't know if you'd agree with me, but it's like that masculine ego.
I don't like putting it in masculine and feminine because it wasn't in that way at all. There were some very powerful spiritual beings in Atlantis, and there was lots of spiritual feminine energies, but the dominating force was the mind. So I would see it as a mind issue, that they worship the mind and what the mind could conceive, and the technological advances using crystals, using whatever. And we're going to see a lot of those things in the next, I'd say next 3 to 10 years. We're going to see a lot of the technology and the medical advances that Atlantis had come back into our world. The technological advancements, the scientific advancements in the next period of time, it's going to blow people away.
Like the med beds that are coming out, that you can literally take years off your aging, cancer, anything. It just resets you.
I was going to ask about that.
I haven't seen that. I don't know anything personally about the med bed, but that's an example.
It's supposed to be first in the Europe area. I'm supposedly starting to get available, but to me it's...
See, and I just call that the King's Chamber at the pyramids.
I feel like the pyramids aren't fully activated though, because they took the outside stones off, and I think they did something with the top. So I think they've intentionally unplugged the pyramids of ways.
Oh, and they shifted the sarcophagus in the King's Chamber. When that was in alignment, it literally shifted you into other realms. So a lot of things have been intentionally shifted because we weren't ready for it. You have to recognize the universe is working for us, not against us. And if you don't understand it, you don't want to play with it.
What's the story of Napoleon when he went into the King's Chamber?
Well, no one knows what the story is because he wouldn't tell anybody. He went in and had an experience that shook him up to his core, and he came out and everything was white as a ghost, and he wouldn't tell anybody what happened. He wouldn't tell anybody. So we don't know what happened.
That was before, and people had disappeared, right? When they went into the esophagus, they just disappeared.
That's the stories that happened. I mean, but I wasn't there, so I can't say it's fact.
I understand that.
Okay.
Yeah, and for those of you that have or have yet to join us in Egypt, we do rent the pyramids out for a 2-hour private experience, and I find it to be my favorite part. Very powerful.
And as for all of us, as our scientists begin to bring out these incredible advances, it's even more important to fill them with love, because it's about keeping their head and their heart in balance. If you get only in your head, that's when we lose it. So we've got to be able to be in our head and heart. What I was told, it was heart scientists, that as soon as we get enough scientists who are in their heart, then literally we'll get everything we need and more. So love our scientists.
I was just going to say real quick, I know one person in my life who won't go into the ocean because she says it's a cemetery and there are millions of dead bodies in there.
Oh yeah.
Immediately,
Absolutely.
it just reminded me, maybe she probably had a past life remembrance of Atlantis, Lemuria. Yeah.
I definitely say that.
Hmm.
Well, I was down at Lake Titicaca in Peru, and that energy is in the water, the water energy. And it's cold. It was cold when we were there. Is absolutely, if you can imagine just God being stirred up in the water, it was amazing, to the point where I jumped in the lake fully clothed just so I could be submerged in that water. It was so powerful. So yeah, the water, first of all, is the blood of the earth. It's sort of like our blood is to our body. The water is the blood of the earth. And so it's very, very powerful, and it has whatever is put into it. And I believe that the Lake Titicaca energy is incredible.
Well, aren't those people there? Don't they have a whole different DNA than what anybody else has?
Who? What are you talking about?
People on Lake Titicaca.
I like that. But it's caca, like Titicaca. I don't know anything about their DNA. I don't know.
Titty and caca? Really?
Titicaca.
So that's very sexual. Titty, caca. It's masculine, feminine.
And to me, it reminds me of poo.
They live on
Little
floating,
kids call their poo caca.
don't they live on floating islands that they build?
I didn't see any. I don't know. I don't know. But Mayfer saying that she used to have dreams of really, really big waves. And yes, you will have all kinds of memories from past life. But it's about getting back into that acceptance and allowing. But it could have been that you were on the Titanic, that who knows? In fact, there's a TV series on, I don't know if it's Netflix or Prime, because those are the two things I watch. It's either one or the other. But the show is called The Ghost Inside My Child. And it's about very young children who are having memories of their past life. And it's quite convincing and quite telling, because they're too young to know the stories, and yet they know details that most people don't know. So you might want to recognize that. And when you have these dreams of this really big, big waves, ask, what am I to learn from this? What is it for? There's meanings. And if you're having them when you were a child, it probably was past life, because we have much less interference. We accept it much more readily.
And I believe that's what part of this lifetime is clearing out the last traumas, whether this lifetime or other lifetimes, or karmically or ancestral and anything. So it's about becoming at peace. And I think that was one of the things about the show, is once they kind of came to peace with the passing or with what happened in their story, they kind of moved on. And so I think it was part of their soul's journey to remember it, to move through.
Yeah, bring it to resolution, bring it to balance. It's our journey for everything, every trauma, everything. And usually if you've had a big trauma in this lifetime, it's because you've had those in other lifetimes, but you needed to reawaken again in this lifetime so you could, bring it to peace. So fun. We have such a life. And if you think you were part of Atlantis or Lemuria or Pompeii or any of these other places, again, ask and allow yourself to remember if it's needed for you. Just allow it. We don't need to remember every trauma that's ever happened, but sometimes we can remember trauma and it can bring it to peace. And only your mind knows for sure.
What is Pompeii? I don't know that one.
Italy.
It's part of Italy, northern Italy, and it was Vesuvius was a big volcano that erupted and covered Pompeii, and they didn't know it existed until they started excavating something, and they found that the ash came down so thick and so heavy that it literally like froze everything that was going on. So they know more about the life and what they did and didn't do and the way they lived, because it was just frozen in time. And so if you Google it, there's tons and tons of pictures of people, even clutching their jewelry. It was a really intense experience that pretty much nobody escaped. So
And you think they were an advanced civilization?
not necessarily. I mean, they were certainly different. One of the things that's kind of interesting about Pompeii is they've got a lot of dildos and penises pointing. They use the penises for the signs and stuff. There was a lot of bordellos and very sexually promiscuous. That even in our world we sort of go ooh, but it was a different thing, and it's because it's so well preserved. It's like looking in on their lives, but the paintings on their walls and their houses and everything is you can do tours to it now. I mean, it's still, you can go and walk through it, but it's just so well preserved that it's been studied so much that has made it fascinating, on its own terms. Probably wouldn't have been anything different than anything else going on, but it was captured so completely, with the dogs and the animals, and I mean, they were all just sort of frozen in time. And you ought to go look it up. And if you go to like documentaries on YouTube or documentaries on Netflix or Prime, there are videos where they've done reenactments or tours or whatever that are well worth watching. They're extremely interesting.
And there's movies. I think there's even a big movie called Pompeii.
Yeah,
Hollywood.
I like the movies are, tell the story. The documentaries show the actual places. So
it sounds like
interesting.
P-Town down the Cape Cod. It's the very artsy area where a lot of gay and lesbians, but very artistic, and dogs and dildos and everything everywhere.
Could be. Since I don't know that place, I can't say yeah, but
a lot of cultures have always very much honored both the lingam or the yoni. If you look at tantric or Vedic, it's been thousands of years old in India.
But when you see a sign hanging up a penis, it just sort of, in this day and age, you sort of go ooh. But it is well worth looking at and learning from.
Honestly, that to me goes back to our hearts, our spiritual gifts too. It's the way one of the deepest, purest ways you can connect with who you are and your source energy. And so that honoring of,
I don't need a penis sign pointing the way for me to connect with my divine source energy. I don't know what they were doing or what you're doing, but I can do without a penis sign. I promise.
I would enjoy it because it would make me giggle. So I enjoy it.
Okay, good enough. Just giggle away. But it's well worth investigating, because they did have warnings that it was beginning to rumble, and they didn't pay any attention. They couldn't believe it could happen, so they took no action until it was way too late. A few people left the island who could tell the story, or not the island, but left the area, because it was on a bay along the shoreline. So a few people left to tell the story, but most of them just couldn't believe it could happen to them. It just isn't going to happen, so they just ignored it. Just like right now, there's a lot of scientists saying there's a lot of activity in Yellowstone, And that whole area, we think of like the little geysers and stuff, but that whole area is a volcano. It's huge, and there's a lot of indication that there could be some more activity in there, and yet nobody's doing anything to prepare, look at, discuss, because we believe it couldn't possibly happen.
I want to travel everywhere with all of us.
I want to travel again once I know I don't have to get a shot.
Yes.
Not getting a shot. Not going to get a shot.
Let's bring in abundance.
Yes.
Let's bring in sanity so we don't have to have all this silliness.
And truth.
I
And
agree with that.
Peace, love.
Amen. Amen.
joy, laughter, fun, play.
All right. Anything else that anybody wants to bring in? We're now at a little over 2 hours.
Courage. Strength.
No, we're not going to start a new conversation, but anything on this conversation we want to discuss before we hang up.
I'm adding a comment that
We good?
talked about. So
Say it again.
I'm reading a couple of the comments.
Okay.
Add to that, like what we're bringing in. So like we were talking about bringing in abundance, bringing in travel, bringing in, so courage. Anyway.
Yeah, and there's no limit to what we request, but the challenge is you have to stay focused with the energy, not concentrate, but focus on the energy. And you have to be very clear that you're not bringing in so much that one counters and neutralizes the other. So you want to be real clear about what your priorities are.
Sorry. I got a question on who's snoring.
Who's what?
Snoring? Anyways, that would be my sister in the background.
We're going to ignore that.
No,
All right. Anybody else have a question or comment they want to make before we close off?
Hey, Kishan, by the way. He just
What?
joined. My friend Kishan.
Hi.
Hello. This is my mama. We're just finishing up our cosmic conversations. We have questions and
Anybody want to make a comment to close it up?
Yeah.
For the record, we meet every Thursday night on Zoom. If you don't know the number, Stacy can give it to you. And it's also broadcast live on YouTube and on Instagram. And we deal with all kinds of spiritual topics. Whatever the conversation leads, there we go. And then on Sunday night, we have a political spiritual conversation where we look at the implications of politics in this here and now and talk about what's going on, because it too is a very challenging area and is very determining where this planet will go. So Sunday night we do politics at 6 o'clock Central Time, 4 o'clock Eastern Time, Pacific Time, and then on Thursday we do this conversation, and then when I feel like it, we do workshops and special trainings on different topics. So if there's no additional comments, if there's no additional statements, if there's no other things, then we will just thank you all for joining us. And for the people who've been a part of this online, we deeply appreciate your energy. Remember, your job is to love unconditionally, abundantly, freely. And if we can help you do that, please let us know. And in a perfect world, we'll see you next Thursday.
and then we already
with
have
more light love.
beautiful,
What?
Bless their heart.
beautiful conversation.
Bless their heart.
Once again, thank you, ladies, and all the courageous friends in this group. Blessings going into the weekend with love. Heart.
Bless their heart.
Yes.
All right.
Yes. Thank you for joining us, and feel free, if you want to watch the replay, you can always go to YouTube at Stacy Harder, STACIE.
How many channel people do you have now?
38.
We're growing. Yay. All
And
right.
my Instagram is almost 2,000. So hey, that's exciting. So feel free to share. Again, we love, we have like our little soul tribe family coming in all the time, and it's always lovely to connect with you guys, and females, men, women. just the soul tribe. This is such a special time to be able. I was just thinking of my sister and she called. See, that's the gifts. That's the when we get more connected with what's happening. It's that stuff comes so much more easier right in. So anyways,
Now,
keep the hope. Your
there's
work.
nothing tomorrow, right?
Um,
No.
Tomorrow's Friday. Nothing till Sunday.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you.
Love and light,
Okay.
girls. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. Sleep tight.
Night. Dreams.
All right, I gotta stop the live stream. All right.